3 weeks from now, it's the 27th of June, we will hit the 31st anniversary of the disappearance of Jodi Huisentruit outside her apartment in Mason City, Iowa, as she was on her way to work. She was a morning and noon anchor at KIMT TV in Mason City. I was actually working at the station out of Austin at the very same time that she was working in Mason City. I think I was in Austin, then over in Rochester, but for KAL, while she worked at KIMT, I would see her on the air every day before I went to work. I remember the last time I'd only met her once, and it was at the media softball tournament in 1994 before I left for a different job down in Des Moines. Well, the last couple of days, we've heard about some new information from a private investigator into this case who said there was a witness that came forward to him with a tip that he believes may now resolve this case. That private investigator, Steve Ridge, joining me now. Appreciate the time, Steve. You've been looking into this case. I know you said 7 years that you've been looking into this. Before we get into the new information that you've shared with the Department of Criminal Investigation, I want to talk about your background. How did you come to be involved in this 7 years ago?
Well, the company that I was with before I became a private investigator was actually the dominant local media research and consulting firm in the nation. And I was with them for 37 years. And during the course of Jodi's career, she sent a audition tape to me. Actually, it was, she had first worked in Cedar Rapids at the old WMT, which is now KJAM, same station I worked at for a period of time. And then she went up to Alexandria and worked there. And then she sent an audition tape to me looking for work. And our client was KIMT at the time. Also, we had coaches that worked with her, on-air coaches that worked with her delivery and try to eliminate some of that Minnesotan accent that to make her, you know, a better fit for a national stage eventually or whatever. And so that's how I actually had a personal connection. But I will tell you, to my knowledge, I never met her. I have been told that apparently I spoke in an event where she was there. So we, you know, we all kind of live in this little small world. I had checked you out and knew that you had worked in the market and overlapped. So it's a very sad story, and it's been a grueling 7 years, but I think I've made really substantial progress.
Yeah, I remember that day when she went missing too. And again, I was working down in Des Moines, and a coworker who I work with now, who's our chief photographer here, John Catu, he and I worked together in Austin, and then we both worked together in Des Moines. And I remember the day he came to me and said, "Hey, Jodi Huisentruit is missing," and I still remember that very clearly. So you have been involved in this, and tell me how much time and money you've invested now in the past 7 years to really dive into trying to come up with some answers.
Well, I've dedicated close to full time on the case, at least starting 7 years ago. Now, more recently, I've ended up involved in some major cases down in Missouri and Kansas and one in Pennsylvania. So I've brought on extra people to assist me, but I decided to make it kind of my mission to try to solve this case personally, to really, you know, nail it to the ground, hopefully. And to that end, I did put up a $100,000 reward that would come out of my personal funds, because that's how strongly I feel. I mean, I want this resolved, and I want to be able to find her remains and give her a proper burial and bring closure to the family. And that's my primary goal. But I'll do, you know, a lot of these releases and things that I do, or advances that I've made, they build on one another. And when people see or hear things that I report, they think, well, gosh, I've been sitting on this, maybe I'll be in touch. And that's exactly what happened with this woman who's now in her 80s, who came forward with some critical information in the case.
When did this happen?
Well, I've been talking with her for over a year, but I've also been researching it, and I have secured from her photographs with the individual that we're talking about, and written communication, handwritten communication, ticket stubs, financial checks, you name it. I mean, I have completely validated the fact that she dated the person that I'm talking about here, and that in a heated moment of anger and frustration, when they were being tailed by authorities, that this gentleman slammed the steering wheel several times, saying, "I didn't do it, I didn't do it." But the final time, he slammed it extra hard and he said, "I did it." And when he said, "I did it," they both froze momentarily. They looked at one another. They didn't speak for a while. And then eventually the relationship broke up. And I think probably largely because of that. He broke it off. He said, "My life is too much of a mess. I've got too much going on. I just can't be in a relationship. It's not fair to you." And she's extremely credible. I mean, she sat on this for a long time, but she said, "I just feel a moral obligation to come forward and share it with you." And frankly, she was concerned about going to authorities. I mean, she just didn't have very much confidence that local authorities were going to do anything with the information.
And so, again, this is a woman, you say, in her 80s, who said dated a person of interest. How long after Jodi's disappearance was she in a relationship with him?
Less than 6 months. It was very soon in the overall scheme. And so it was still very fresh, and the police were still actively investigating and following up on leads and following people. They followed multiple people, at the time. And so that's essentially what happened. And, I'm absolutely convinced that it's true testimony.
And again, you said that she provided some of these other documentation, and that's to prove her story that she was in a relationship with this person of interest, right?
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely. And I think without a doubt, she would submit to a polygraph test, to a lie detector test. I think she would testify. I think she would certify an affidavit. I mean, I think she's ready to cooperate, but she is getting older, and that's part of my concern is, we've lost too many witnesses in this case that passed away or moved away or what have you, and I just don't want that to happen.
And she believes that this moment of confession that she describes is legitimate.
Absolutely. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, we talked at length about all the things that they went to do as a couple and where they went and the time they spent and how close they were in this romantic relationship. And she would have absolutely no reason to want to, lie or mislead or whatever. There's nothing like that in this relationship of hers.
You mentioned that she was hesitant to go to authorities. Now, again, we're approaching 31 years. That's a long time to be hesitant to go to authorities. Did she have any other explanation for why she's held this for so many years?
Well, I think that, first of all, I think her relationship with this individual sort of tainted her view of local authorities. And, I don't know what, if any, personal experience she had, but, there were a lot of missteps from day one in this case. The car was not ever searched inside. It was only processed on the outside because it was locked. It was given back to the family and it was sold. So any potential evidence there was gone. Later, there were other issues with evidence of her diary, a copy of which was essentially stolen and given to the local newspaper. the overall confidence level in the Mason City Police Department is just not very high among the citizens of the community as it relates to the Jodi Huisentruit case.
No, the Division of Criminal Investigation in Iowa has been involved in this investigation, though, since the beginning, the state investigative agency. I know you said you have forwarded this information to them. She could have gone directly to them and not used the local police department, but did you get the sense that she was concerned about them, or just sort of unaware of that route to take?
I think largely unaware of that. I mean, I told her when I talked to her, I said, look, I've got a great relationship with the FBI. I worked on multiple cases with them. I've got a good relationship with the Division of Criminal Investigation. And you know, I said, I've got the avenues. So I think at this point she will cooperate, but she wanted me to be the facilitator to make that happen. And I'm happy to do that because, you know, if people will come forward with information, I encourage them to go to the police. But if they don't and they want to talk to me first, I'm more than happy to facilitate that communication.
Now, you are not publicly naming who this person of interest is that she has, you know, said she heard a confession from at this point. Is this a person of interest who is still living?
Well, I can't comment on whether alive or whether they're dead. I will tell you it's a male. And that's as far as I really want to go. And that's just because I'm not trying to be coy. I mean, you really are innocent until proven guilty. Mm-hmm. And I think that any clues that I might give would be inappropriate.
Yeah, you got to be very careful. But you've supplied all this information to investigators in the state of Iowa. Where do you get the sense now that it is at? Are they acting on this? Have you got any indication how seriously they're looking into it?
Well, I have utmost confidence in the new special agent assigned to this case, a gentleman by the name of Ryan Herman, who is a special agent in charge of the case. I'm just very confident in his credibility and background and ability to work with me and with witnesses. But the other thing that I am doing at this juncture is calling on the local Mason City Police Department to request that the new Iowa Attorney General's cold case unit, which was established a couple of years ago, be brought in on the case, because it's a wonderful resource. They have the prosecutorial firepower. It's a wonderful group. I know them well. And I think if they were brought in addition to the DCI, I think this could be solved. Now, the only way that happens is if the local department, Mason City Police Department, owns this case. They have jurisdiction, primary jurisdiction. They decide whether to call in the DCI, the FBI, the cold case unit, and so far they have not asked the cold case unit to come in.
Okay, but in closing here, it sounds like you have pretty high confidence that this could come to a resolution.
Well, I do, because this is not the only piece of information I have. I mean, this is the centerpiece, I would say, because when you get someone that's prepared to testify to having heard a confession, that's pretty good evidence for even a circumstantial case. But I have a mountain of other evidence that I have compiled that does point to this individual, and I think the collective information that I have could conceivably be used in a no-body prosecution, if you will, a circumstantial evidence case. And I think that there are people beyond this individual who have knowledge of what happened and have helped in the cover-up.
All right. Private Investigator Steve Ridge, thank you for taking time with us today. It will be very interested to see where this information that you have come across, that has come to you, that you have passed on, where this leads.
Well, I sure appreciate you giving this attention. It's lengthier discussion like this is much more valuable than a quick minute 30 package on local TV.
I agree, totally. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
We'll stay in touch. All right.